Hello and welcome to another episode of Launch Legends. Today we speak with Elad of Fixel. Fixel recently got acquired in November 2020 after growing to hundreds of customers. Elad breaks down some of the SEO and Twitter hacks that helped him get lots of traction for his early stage startup. But before we go ahead, if you're listening to this on a podcast, please rate and review. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and leave a review. Hey, Elad, thank you very much for coming on the show. So I know you guys just sold your company, Fixel, last month. So congratulations. I know you guys.
Thank you.
You have hundreds of thousands of customers. You were doing very good revenue, and you were doing like hundreds of millions of session recordings every month. So big deal. But I know you've been in marketing for a very long time, and you've got some hacks up your sleeves. We were talking about how you use the other hacks to, for your startup to get traction. One of those being SEO, where as a startup, I know myself, we don't have enough budget, so with SEO it takes a while for anything to rank. But you did something differently. Let's talk about that first, and then I want to talk about the other hack you've got with Twitter. So let's talk about SEO first.
Sure thing. So it's a pleasure to be here. First of all, myself, I'm coming from an SEO background, so I knew that was one of the first things I'd want to be tackling when I'm starting to promote my startup. And the thing about SEO, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and as you said, a lot of budget as well. Mm-hmm. And we figured we can't really rank for the keywords we want. We were up against giants. We were up against Criteo, Adroll, all these different platforms that were playing their remarketing keywords, and we couldn't really stack up against them. But what we could do is really build, the infrastructure, build whatever is relevant on our website, have these keywords in place, have the technical kind of optimization done. But on the other hand, for the actual ranking, we decided to go for what I call a piggyback SEO technique. Mm-hmm. So what we did is identify these key places where we'd want to be ranking. So for example, take remarketing tools. Mm-hmm. Now, remarketing tools usually is a very high intent keyword. That's people searching for a remarketing tool that they can use. And this is very, it's something we'd want to rank high for, but most probably couldn't. And when we've looked this up, we've seen that there's plenty of other tools that don't really relate necessarily to that are ranking in the first pages and are talking about some tools. So you'd find their Raven tools, which is an SEO tool. You'd find their HubSpot, which is a CRM and marketing automation. You'd find all these different other solutions. And most of the content for these specific pages or blog posts was outdated. And being the good Samaritan that we are, we offered and we reached out to these people and offered to update this content. And the value for them is very clear. A more up-to-date page would get better rankings and traffic. So they're benefiting from that in any case. And we're benefiting because we're scratching out, irrelevant competitors. We're putting our name in front of people and we're being equal to Criteo, Adroll, and getting all these other giants. Mm-hmm. And we're able to land quite a few results on first pages, drive some fantastic traffic directly to our website, drive our organic rankings up because we were suddenly linked within the right context from fantastic websites. Mm-hmm. And I think the more or the most interesting part of it was we started seeing these articles being written about us and listing us as top remarketing tools, because whoever was doing the research was too lazy and was looking at the first page and was seeing us listed across, with other tools. So again, these organic new articles came in listing Fixel as one of these top solutions. Okay, just like that.
Got it. So let me break it down. So basically, what you did was you reached out to people with ad-based content, and you just offered to rewrite the content for them or update the content for them. Because the content was really outdated. And then once you publish the new content, you gave them the new content that had Fixel as one of the tools or something related to Fixel in the content. That way, you were able to get a backlink from the page that was ranking for the particular keyword on top, and then obviously some exposure of your brand as well. Is that right?
Exactly. So we earned the exposure, we earned a backlink, we earned actual referral traffic, strong referral traffic with high intent that was driving back to our website.
Right.
And again, this spun some sort of flywheel because other people researching remarketing tools to write about remarketing tools listed Fixel in it as well.
Great. So I'm actually going to go into specifics. But before, let's talk about the actual numbers. How many backlinks were you able to get, and what kind of traffic were you able to generate over time?
Directly, we're talking about a few dozens.
Mm-hmm. Wow, okay.
And again, this is manual labor. You have to research the specific keywords we want to be ranking for. We had to do plenty of outreach to be able to land each and every content piece, and then write it, to be good enough to actually replace the original piece.
Yeah, right. And so how long was the whole campaign, the outreach campaign?
So it's an ongoing campaign. We did this in several bursts. Each time it would take, I believe, 2 to 3 months. But overall, it brought us some fantastic rewards.
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. If someone emails me and tells me that, okay, your content is a bit outdated, let me fix it for you. I would only trust that person if they have some credibility, or if I know them, if they have a brand which I trust. How did you get people to actually agree to what you were telling them? Because look, straight away, if someone tells me that, I'm thinking, okay, they're just doing that because they want a backlink from that particular page. How did you convince them? I would like to know that.
So that's actually a key challenge. I had that conversation earlier today with a friend of mine who was facing that same challenge. Okay. And myself, I get plenty of emails from different agencies or independent consultants that are urging me to share their blog posts or cross post or whatnot. Yeah. I really try to approach in a way that is a very candid, not trying to hide anything. Mm-hmm. But I do try to use the mutual benefit here and say, hey, this is outdated. You can reach better ranking if your content was updated on this and this. Mm-hmm. Usually I'd actually mention the tools that are, obsolete there, because you have a R2 data, which was sold off to whoever, and you have these guys which are irrelevant, and really point out to specific problems within their articles. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, I'd actually share a link to Brian Dean's article about relaunching old content and what impact it drove for their website. And this way they can actually realize the actual benefit of traffic that they can drive from it. And again, it's a win-win ultimately.
So what's your conversion rate on that page? So for example, if you approach 100 people, how many deals did you sign? Well, not deals, how many agreements did you have?
So I must say that we were somewhere around the 60-70% response rate.
Oh, wow.
Ultimately, being able to engage to the extent of writing these pieces and getting these out there, we were somewhere in the 20-30%.
Oh wow, that's really high. That's really high. So what other SEO hacks work for you for your startup?
So in terms of SEO, one of the things that we do like to kind of do on our website, and this I believe ties back into stuff that you're doing, is plenty of repurposing. So for example, we have webinars, and we do these kinds of activities quite a bit. And every time we have these activities, it goes out as the webinar, of course. Mm-hmm. But then we take it anywhere else. So that's any webinar is repurposed into a blog post. Mm-hmm. It goes also into these kind of dissected pieces that go out on our social media. Yeah. And all of this spins, again, that kind of flywheel that drives this organic engagement. So it's really very, very important. And that too, we're optimizing over time. So we had a webinar that was focused, for example, not even a webinar, an on-site event. Mm-hmm. It was focused about e-commerce. e-commerce marketing, and that. So we had speakers talk about Google Ads scripts. We had another one talk about enhanced e-commerce for analytics and all these different very, very specific topics. We've spun these off into a series of blog posts. And after we've gotten these blog posts out and we've seen that they're reaching rankings, we've also identified specific keywords that they were organically ranking for. So we re-optimize them again to gain or to boost them on top of these existing keywords. So we're even more targeted for them.
Right.
So even though we didn't, provide that direction for the speakers in advance, we were able to use that in hindsight to really kind of micro-target specific keywords.
Great. So, Elad, before we move on to your Twitter hacks, I'm actually quite keen to learn about those. They're quite good. I've been thinking for a while, how come not many people actually do multilingual SEO? I've done some keyword research recently on one of the products, and I realized that it's wide open. There's literally no competition. So when you are doing SEO and content marketing in English-speaking markets, there's always competition. But if you go any other language, for example, Portuguese, Brazil, there's no competition and the volume is huge. I know you talk about the language barrier being where you can't really provide support, but if you can somehow overcome that, it feels like it's a real blue ocean over there. What's your experience there? Or why do you think not many people do multilingual SEO?
So I do think that as marketers, we too often, limit ourselves to English-speaking countries, and we have tested that around. And specifically, even Portuguese. We were doing campaigns for Brazil just pre-COVID. I was supposed to fly out to Brazil in March, and luckily enough, that didn't happen. But
that wouldn't be too bad getting stuck in Brazil. Actually, no, it did go a bit crazy, but wouldn't be bad going to Brazil for a bit.
I'm not against Brazil, one of my favorite places, but at the same time, there was a huge, outburst of COVID in Sao Paulo at the time, so I wouldn't want to be there. But we were seeing fantastic results working with translated content for these audiences, and it's not a huge leap to make, in my opinion. And it's about being able to really start the engagement with them, and from that point onwards, usually if your platform is simple enough, they can even work it in English. They wouldn't need to kind of jump through too many hoops. So we've made the translation to Portuguese, to French, and we started playing around with these other languages. But before we even go into translation, there are certain countries that you can approach in English, that it's far easier than you'd expect. If you're talking to Swedes or Danes or even Germans, their English is for the most fantastic, and it's hard to say something about the entire German population. But generally speaking, they can engage easily in English-speaking product without any issues. So really, you need to think beyond the standard English-speaking countries to drive more audiences rather easily.
Yeah, I'm laughing right now because there's a story I keep telling people. So a couple of years ago, we had a product and we were investing a lot of money into SEO and content marketing and PPC and everything in the English-speaking markets. And I would say at that time, 90% of our sales were coming from all the English-speaking markets. And then just for nothing, we just started translating the site. And we didn't really think much of it. We just started translating. And we kept growing. And we were growing at a pace where we were just hiring people and we just didn't really care about what was working because everything worked at that time. And at the same time, we just kept investing into English-speaking, SEO and content marketing and everything. All our efforts were there. About 12 months later, we finally dug in and looked at the data properly. And we realized that at that particular time, 25% of our sales were coming from English-speaking markets. And the 75%, the rest of 75% were coming from all the non-English-speaking countries, for example, Brazil, even places like Korea, Germany, wherever we translated, the site just started to rank overnight, and it was just bringing us loads of traffic and sales. But the funny thing is, we were still spending most of our budget, almost all our budget, on English-speaking markets. So it's crazy. It's been a mystery where not many people do multilingual content marketing, and I would say that online marketers are probably one of the smartest people I've worked with and I've met, but for some reason they can't think beyond English. They don't go multilingual.
Yeah, and I think you're not always conscious or aware of the data that's coming in and really looking into it. And there's plenty of anomalies that you run into along the way. A recent anomaly, by the way, just a few weeks ago, we were seeing a huge surge in traffic coming in from South Africa. Right. Fantastic organic traffic. People are converting like crazy and signing up for our product, but none are converting to paid users. So we were looking and starting to research into that. And then we finally realized, looking at Search Console data, that these people were searching for a brand of sneakers called Fixel that was popular at the time in South Africa. They were running some TV ads or something. And we were ranking first for Fixel. And they had the same brand colors, black and yellow, like we did. Right. And people weren't even reading our messaging. You're invested so much in your messaging and what people read about your product and positioning and whatnot. But they were like, give me the sneakers. Come on, I'm signing up. Okay, whatever. Give me the sneakers.
Yeah, you're right. That's funny. That's really funny, actually. But okay, let's move on to your Twitter hacks. Let's talk about that. What did you do there?
So coming into Fixel, I realized there was more to do about our marketing beyond these standard performance marketing tactics, and we did want to expand into things that are more, I'd say, promoting our brand, be that our personal brand as the co-founders, and kind of positioning ourselves as I'd say experts within our field, analytics, big data, PPC, and the brand of Fixel itself. We wanted to make it something that people are aware of. And again, with limited to no budget at the time. One of the key communities we were able to identify is a community of PPC experts that's located on Twitter. And they have their own hashtag PPC chat that they're tweeting regularly. And they have all these different conversations that are happening there. It's very active, specifically in Northern America. Right. So we wanted to tap into that. And one thing that we came across, we were looking to expand our tool into LinkedIn and to be able to integrate Fixel into LinkedIn. We had to create some hack that would operate the LinkedIn pixel in a different way. That hack specifically opened up a new world of targeting for the LinkedIn pixel that we could offer to anyone freely. So we figured we would use that as kind of a way to approach these PPC experts. So we looked up who the top involved people were on that thread of PPC chat and people that specifically were into LinkedIn ads. And we started sending out these tweets with a meme of Morpheus, what if I told you? And what if I told you that LinkedIn ads targeting could be better? Okay. And really, this kind of playful engagement, we were able to talk to these people and reach probably the most influential LinkedIn ads experts in the US. Okay. And expose them to Fixel, expose them to our solution to the LinkedIn ads problem. And from that, kind of get the conversation rolling, get Fixel on the map, and also create some content around that that was distributed. And again, backlinks, traffic, and all that, and at zero cost without really spending a dime.
Great. So let me ask you this: how were you able to first identify those people at scale? Of course, you could do that manually, but how are you able to identify them at scale and then reach out to them?
So nowadays, I'm using tools such as SparkToro to do so, and you're really able to zero in on very micro kind of audiences there. At the time, we were using tools such as Communit, which was able to expose these, again, different micro influencer communities and who is talking about a specific topic. Another thing was simply researching on Google. One of our key, I'd say, resources for that was looking at PPC Heroes' top 50 influential PPC experts.
Got it.
So really extracting that group, seeing who they're interacting with, and kind of building that map of people we want to be talking to.
Great. You just mentioned Smart Hero. So I had Rand Fishkin talk to me a couple of months ago. He came on the show. Great guy. As a product, I've used it. I actually love it. How's that working for you?
It's a very neat product. I've also been lucky to interview him. Early on, we had a small podcast at the beginning of COVID. I think everyone had. So he's an amazing guy. And as an SEO, I grew on his guide to SEO. So yeah, I owe him quite a bit.
Great. So let's talk about the other hacks that worked really well for you, the Twitter bot one.
So TwitterBot is a very interesting one. Once we realized how much power there is in the Twitter SEO, in the Twitter PPC community, we figured we'd want to be more involved in it. But at the same time, we couldn't sit around, all day on Twitter. We weren't really that kind of Twitter buffs. So we wanted to automate this to some extent. And then I came across a research tool by a friend of mine, Rory Povarchik, that he said that whenever he wants to identify what people are talking about and kind of identify the tone of voice about things, he goes into Twitter and has these different kind of search operators that he can use, similar to ones he would use in Google search.
Right.
So I figured, okay, we can take these search operators and try and use them for a different use.
Okay.
So I plugged in a remarketing and retargeting, which are the key topics we'd want to be tapping into.
Yeah.
I put in also the search, the question mark, just to see if anyone's asking actively a question about that.
Yeah. And
excluded anything that had a link in it. So it wouldn't be anyone who's promoting content about remarketing, but rather asking a question about remarketing. I've used a tool called Integromat to go into Twitter.
Spell that? Could you say that?
Integromat.
Okay, got it.
It's a Zapier killer. So once a day, it goes into Twitter, polls, and see whatever posts have been posted about that keywords, and returns us a list of these people. We also pulled it with a number of followers, so we can then, try and prioritize who we're going to be answering.
Right.
But the answers themselves were manually written. We came in to each and every tweet and posted, an answer about that, and didn't necessarily, reference Fixel, because it wasn't always the case that Fixel was the answer to every question. And I think it would be abusive to do so. And that drove that organic, authentic conversation, which again, semi-manual, semi-automated, but really was able to drive that at scale.
Right. So how many of those questions on marketing or remarketing were you getting every day? And how many answers were you giving? That seems like...
So usually we'd see a handful come in every day. And then we'd select, I believe, one or two and have that going. Yeah. Right.
I mean, it would be great if you could do that in Facebook groups or maybe LinkedIn as well. I think that would be gold.
So definitely yes. Facebook groups, and we've checked that, are more restrictive on the way that you can automate these kind of scans. So you have to be on top of it.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that you have to be in Facebook groups to engage with your audiences. We're looking at PPC experts in the e-com field. There's plenty of groups out there, and it's one of the key places we need to be active on. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. So one last question. So, the pain with the startups, getting traction, getting eyeballs for your product is probably one of the hardest things. You've given us three or four different things we could work on, but if someone's listening to this, what's the one thing they should focus on in terms of driving traffic and eyeballs to their product?
I think the key thing would be less is more. So whether you're working, on content for your blog, or you're working on your social media, whatever it is that you're doing, less is more. Try to be focused. Try to drive long form content that is bringing true value. There's plenty of startups I've been involved with, or even larger companies that have been blogging like crazy and writing thin content or kind of marketing fluff that is irrelevant to anyone. And that isn't really going to get you anywhere. So if you are writing something, double down, see what the top results in Google are, and really try to write longer, write more detailed, go into more use cases. If they're not using a video, put up a video, use an infographic, even if in 2020 it's very relevant, not some generic Shutterstock images, and really put your heart and sweat into it, because that's what makes a difference. And when we're writing code,
I think that's probably the best advice you can give anyone. A lot of these marketing strategies and tactics will work, but if you try to do each one of them, nothing's going to work for you, because
you're spreading too thin. There's so much you can do, and you really got to understand that and embrace that, and then double down on what you can.
Exactly. And thank you very much, and I hope I can speak to you very soon. Thank you for all the hacks and tips you gave us. Thank you very much.
Cheers.